Hi everybody and welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Greta and I'm the dietitian at John Stoddard Cancer Center. So I have another great recipe for you today, and this is for a wonderful soup. And you know, in the springtime sometimes there are some chilly nights still, so we can still take advantage of some soups. This is for an Italian wedding soup, and Italian wedding soup is full of great veggies. It's got some greens, but it also has little meatballs. So instead of doing pork and beef meatballs, we are going to do chicken meatballs. So we're going to start by building the meatballs, and I've adjusted some of the steps from the original recipe that I'm going to tell you about right now. So first of all, in my bowl right here, we're going to start with one large egg, and I have to show off, this is one of my chicken's eggs. It's such a pretty color. It's green. This is one of Agnes's eggs. She lays the pretty green eggs. So we're going to put one egg in the bowl. We're just going to beat that a little bit. All right, perfect. I'm going to set that aside. And next, I'm going to add my ground chicken. I'm doing this part first, so then I can wash my hands to do my fresh ingredients. So once again, if you're wondering where I get these crazy tubes of ground chicken, these I get from the Iowa Food Co-op. These are from Holdeman Farms. It's a Iowa producer. It is Capon ground chicken. That is 1 pound of ground chicken. I love these tubes because you can just squeeze the contents out. I just think it's so easy, and they're really nice to store in the freezer. So I buy a few at a time and have them stored in my freezer. Did I get it all? I did. All right, so I'm going to discard that. And I'm going to wash my hands and step over a puppy, because it wouldn't be cooking in my kitchen without a dog right underneath my feet. All right. Remember, food safety first, always. Okay, so to that, we are going to add about a half a cup of breadcrumbs. You can use whatever kind of breadcrumbs you have on hand. I always have panko breadcrumbs, which I like because they're not seasoned, and then you can adjust the seasoning yourself or whatever you're adding them to. We're also going to add a teaspoon of dried oregano. If you don't have dried oregano, you can also do Italian seasoning would be good. You can do dried rosemary, that would be good too. In that goes. Okay. We're gonna add a little bit of salt, or you can omit if you're not using salt. And some fresh ground pepper. Always lots of pepper for me. All right. Then we're just going to do about 1/3 of a cup of some shredded or grated Parmesan cheese. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. So I'm going to show you my fresh ingredients here. Oh, I didn't get a knife. It'd be hard to chop things without a knife. All right, we're going to put in about 3 tablespoons or so of chopped fresh parsley. Saying how excited I am for the prospect of spring, because I miss having my fresh parsley on my patio that I can just go outside and grab as much parsley as I need. Soon we will have fresh things soon, right? So there's also 2 tablespoons of chopped garlic or 2 cloves of chopped garlic. There's also 2 cloves of chopped garlic in the soup itself. So I am gonna chop all 4 right now so that I have them all ready to go for when I build my soup. It's just gonna save me a step later. So I am gonna work on chopping my garlic because that always takes a little bit longer. And when I'm done, we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've got all my garlic chopped. I put half of it in my meatballs and I'm saving the other half when we start building the soup. So I've got all my ingredients in here for my meatballs. So now I'm gonna use my claw hand to kind of combine everything. We don't want to overmix them because then they kind of get tough. But if you just kind of use your hand in sort of a claw and pull up everything into your meat, just like that, till we get it all just combined. Kind of all those ingredients sort of evenly distributed. Okay, so the original recipe says you're going to make about 80 meatballs. I felt like that took me way too long to make that many teeny tiny meatballs. So I make about half the amount, and I use a little trick. I use my little melon baller scooper and make them about that size. So it does make about half the amount, but we're going to bake them in the oven instead of cooking them in the pot, because I feel like, again, that was a very long step and you have to worry about them sticking since we're using ground chicken. It's very lean, and I didn't want to increase the fat. So I have a sheet tray here and I just put some foil down. I just sprayed it with a little bit of Pam, or you could put just a little bit of, a little drizzle of oil on it so that they don't stick. So I'm going to make my little meatballs. I'm just going to fill my little melon baller and set them on the tray. If you need help forming them, I just have a little bowl of water here. You can just kind of use some damp fingertips to kind of help form them. And just keep filling your tray. So because these are so tiny, they take hardly any time at all to bake. I baked mine for about 10-15 minutes. So I actually already have my oven preheating so that we can bake them, and that way they're ready to go, and then we'll just add them to the soup later instead of cooking them directly in the pan. So I'm going to keep working on forming my meatballs, and I'll come back when I have them all ready to go. Okay, so I have all my meatballs portioned, and you can see these rows here. I have them already nice and formed into little meatballs. So I wanted to show you kind of the rough ones that I just kind of make a little ball, put it down in the pan. It's kind of a fun sort of therapeutic little step. But you can see they're really cute little meatballs. I estimate using that melon baller, you're going to get between 40 to 50. 50 if you keep your scoop really nice and level. But I feel like that's a good number. And then I feel like when they're in the soup, it's kind of fun because you can just break them in half, or, you know, I didn't feel like I needed super tiny meatballs in there, and it just takes so much longer to roll that number of them. They actually smell super good because they have that oregano and garlic and parsley. Oh my gosh, they smell good. All right, so when I'm done getting these all nice and formed into their little balls, I'm going to put these into a 375 oven. Like I said, they're only going to take about 10-15 minutes. If yours seem like they're getting too brown on the bottom, you can go ahead and turn them just halfway through so they get browned evenly on both sides. And then when we come back, we're going to start working on our soup. So I'll see you in a few. Okay, so my meatballs are in the oven, so I'm ready to start chopping my veggies for the soup. So we're going to start with some carrots. My carrots are peeled. You want about 2 or 3 carrots in here. You know me, I tend to go overboard when it comes to the veggie part of anything. I like it thick and chunky and full of veggies. So we want to cut things pretty small, sort of diced, then it cooks really fast. So I'm going to cut my carrots up into nice little diced up chunks. We also are going to have about 2 to 3 ribs of celery. So about 2 cups of chopped carrot, 2 cups of celery, and 2 cups of chopped onion. And then I've already got my garlic done because we did that when we did the meatballs. Anytime too, of course, there's a veggie that you're not partial to, we can always come up with a substitution. The recipe does call for 3 cups of baby spinach. If you have other greens on hand that you want to use, you could substitute Swiss chard, you could substitute kale, you could do some other type of green if you wanted to. Alright. Ooh, my puppy is standing here because we have horses, so we go to the barn a lot. And there's lots of carrots at the barn because horses really like carrots, which means the puppies standing under the horses often also get some carrot. So now when the carrots are out, puppies think they get some, which I suppose could be worse, but that's what somebody who cooks plant-based, I guess their dog gets carrots, right? Or sweet potato. Alright. Last one. I like this recipe too because a lot of the veggies are things that are pretty much available all the time. So you really could make this recipe anytime. So I felt like my ribs of celery were kind of small, so I was gonna go with 4. I feel like in the winter months, things are just not as big and bold as they are when it's warmer out, so everything's, the carrots were smaller. Well, those were actually decent size, but usually they're smaller. My celery has just been smaller. Alright. So I'm just cutting them down in halves or thirds so I can dice them. Put them in a nice big pile like that. And give them a chop. So I learned something new when I was looking for recipes, and I saw this wedding soup recipe, and I'm like, oh, this will be a great soup for early spring. And you know, you think about the name of it, it's called wedding soup. So I guess I always assumed this was like something that was served at a wedding. And actually, the name for the wedding soup comes from a mistranslation of the word marry as to marry flavors. So it's sort of a marrying of all of these flavors together in this soup, which I thought, I learned something new. I learn something new all the time. My onion is really big, so I doubt that I'm going to use the whole thing. This is the part where you can sort of look at your produce and sort of gauge how you want to use it. Nothing ever goes to waste in my refrigerator. So even if I have a half of onion in there, I'm going to find some other way to use it later on in the week. Oops. Closed up my garbage bowl. Go. Alright, let's see how much we get out of half. This is a very large onion. And we're just going to dice it, so I'm just going to slice. Hope you can see that my hand is in the way, just like that. I'm just holding it together, just like that. Turn it to the side, and then come down like this. it makes perfect ice. Except for the pieces that were coming off at the end. I kind of think this half of an onion might do it for me. That is a lot of onion. All right, so my veggies are all chopped then. So when we come back, we're gonna move over to the stove and we're gonna start putting our soup together. And you're just gonna be amazed how fast the soup comes together. So I'll see you in a few. Okay, I'm back. I just took my meatballs out of the oven. I just gave them 15 minutes. They are gonna cook more in the soup too, so I'm not too worried about them being totally at temperature, but they look pretty darn good to me. I've got my pot ready. I've got about 3 tablespoons of olive oil in here. I'm gonna go ahead and add my carrots and my celery and my onion. And we're just gonna cook these on medium heat for about 8 to 10 minutes until they get softened. And we will be right back when they are ready to go. Okay, I'm back because my veggies are nice and softened. They are perfect. They smell so good. So I'm going to go ahead and add now my 2 cloves of garlic that has been patiently waiting. And we only need to heat that for a minute until that magic moment. It releases its beautiful aroma. Stir that in. And this point is when we want to go ahead and salt and pepper it. I don't add a lot of salt in I'm going to use my own chicken stock, which I don't add a lot of salt to. So I'm just going to add a teaspoon of salt to this. And of course, lots of black pepper. I love how celery, onion, and carrots and garlic just by themselves smell so good. It's such promise for what's to come. Alright, so that's ready to go. So I'm going to reach over here. I have 8 cups of, this is my homemade chicken stock this time, that I keep in my freezer all of the time. It's going to add so much flavor to this. You could use veggie stock if you wanted to, but I'm going to use this opportunity to use my chicken stock. Just like that. Just going to give everything kind of a stir. Alright. So at this point, I'm going to come back to my meatballs, and this is kind of why I like the trick of using the foil, just sprayed with a little pan. I'm just going to loosen them up. And they really are not stuck because I use that trick. And then they're really easy to add into the pot. So I'm just going to carry that over and add my little meatballs into the pot. And look at that. Cream. So easy. All right, so we're going to turn this up a little bit. We're going to let this stock come up to a simmer. And then we're going to go ahead and add a couple more things. So I'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, so my stock is simmering now, so I'm going to go ahead and add my 1/2 cup. I'm using orzo. You can use any very small pasta for this. Again, this makes it really hearty. If you want to use some other kind of grain, you could use a grain. Quinoa would work okay in this. Most of your rices will take just a little bit too long to cook, so you might want to sort of cook them and then add them. But this orzo is only going to take about 10 minutes. So I've got my orzo in there. I'm going to let this simmer for just about 10 minutes until my orzo is cooked. And we're going to come back and add the last ingredient. All right, so our orzo is all cooked in there. It is ready to go. So I'm going to turn my heat off. It smells so good. So here I have about 3 cups of spinach. I'm not using baby spinach because I ate it all. So this was regular spinach, and I did chop it then because wasn't in baby leaves, it was big leaves. I know it looks like a lot, but it is going to wilt down. And then you just stir it in. And it's just going to melt into your nice hot stock. Just like that. Oh, it smells so good. I can't wait to eat it. Just serve it up in a bowl and you can shave just a little bit of extra Parmesan on top. It is perfect. So thank you for watching today and enjoy.